There we go. We are live for another week, and we're a little bit short on our guests at the moment. But as ever, the show goes on. We have a good chat. We enjoy ourselves. Let's face it, if just Bill and me turned up and there was no audience, we'd still have a good discussion for an hour and enjoy ourselves. So that's the secret of the show. We don't mind. But we are joined by two of our guests. We have Anton. And we have Fabrizio sitting in the dark there.
Hello. It's getting a bit brighter, actually.
Yeah. Kristin is somewhere probably getting dressed or something. And Terry's with us. So, we're still waiting for, hopefully, Jason Weiser, Doc Sheldon, and Gabriella Sanino. But, in the meantime, Bill, what have you been up to this week?
I've been trying to figure out how Google in-depth articles work, because the patents for those came out on December 31st. And it seems like it's got some great examples of what in-depth articles are, but they no longer show up for the queries that they mentioned in the patent. And I'm wondering if Google's continuing to show those or not. I'm seeing less of them.
Yeah, I get the feeling that they're still doing a lot of tweaking. It's very early days with that. And I think they're trying to get them to only show where they matter.
There have been a few articles on the SMM Post and a couple other places that say that Google's not showing as much of those as they used to. And that may be true.
Yeah, I think for a lot of queries, the take-up was poor. I think that what they need to do is look at people's personal history and only show them to people who have an interest in more in-depth articles, people who've often gone back to the same search results and clicked on multiple results over time. Somebody who reads deeply and researches, then they'd like to see more in-depth articles. But people who do a search, click on something, quickly come back, click on another, never return, those are people who want quick answers. They don't want in-depth articles.
Okay, someone searching for pizza during lunchtime in most places isn't looking up the history of pizza and how pizza's been made. They want lunch.
Exactly. But I think even then, even in the broad spectrum of things, you know, I'm shopping for almost anything. I probably just want the shop, not the detailed specifications of how the thing was invented, who invented it, what country in the world is particularly famous for producing it. I think there are a vast number of searches where in-depth articles are wrong. And I think even for news-related stuff, so it can be any topic in the world, there are more times than not when you don't want an in-depth article. You'd want it one of the 10 results, maybe, or a link to more in-depth articles, but almost as a separate search engine, a kind of research search engine or a research tab for Google. But
so the knowledge panel that Google shows when someone does a search, it shows up if Google thinks it understands an entity being mentioned in the query. And it's not a strict answer to that query. It's just additional information that might be helpful to whoever's doing that search, you know, in case they might want to find out more. So if someone searches for my name, for some reason Google thinks it's a good idea to tell them that people who search for me also search for Gene Roddenberry or Steve Jobs or Tim Berners-Lee. And I don't know if it's good company to be in. Absolutely. Yeah. Or George Orwell.
Yeah.
You know?
That's pretty nice. I'd probably get a list of clowns. Coco, Ronald McDonald.
I have to do that search now. Wait a second. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm just about to do it myself. Just to see what comes up, though.
I've been looking at your blog, Bill, and it's quite interesting the article on the knowledge graph API. Did you manage to spend more time on that?
I've spent, okay, so that was the company blog. I did a post about, and I did a knowledge panel lookup for Darth Vader. And for some reason, Dick Cheney shows up in the search results. I guess he may have been an inspiration for Darth Vader. But it doesn't
Both on the dark side.
say that, yeah. I've heard stories. I wouldn't go hunting with our former vice president. Good things don't happen to his friends who go on hunting trips with him.
Yeah, he doesn't take a gun. He just looks at the animals.
Send a text.
I'll come to Anton and Fab in a minute. But Terry, what have you been up to this week? I know, same old, same old. Terry, you're muted. You're still muted. He's having a lot of fun, but still muted. You double clicked, you muted again.
He's probably not listening either because.
There we go. Now we can hear you.
Okay. So, in regards to what Bill was saying, I think it might be that the same thing happened as what happened with the author markup. Wasn't implemented strongly enough to make it worth putting a big emphasis in the algo on it. You know, it's all about risk, what the reward for these little things that you put into the algo, right? I don't think that they saw the reward that they thought they would.
I definitely think it's based on user feedback. When Google starts scaling something back, it's because it hasn't been getting the results that they want. They haven't scrapped it. I think they're still trying to find where it fits. They know it technically is a good idea. It's just trying to find that implementation. I think it's going to be based on your history. Because if I've got a computer that's at a university library, there's a much greater chance that that machine is going to be used by people who want in-depth searches more of the time, in-depth results.
Yeah, but the thing is, right, how many people, to really implement some of this stuff well, right, it's got to be a case of a coding. Someone can actually code it. All of these things, if there's no plugin, people can't do it, right? And the plugins for schema, sorry, I wouldn't be putting my bread and butter on a plugin in WordPress for schema. You know, there's better ways to do it.
Yeah.
So
you know that WordPress is a bit of a bugbear for me. You know, I know it's popular. I know it's great. There were times when I was telling my clients, yeah, go ahead and use it, but we've got to the point where it's so ubiquitous, where so many people have issues with so many plugins. The number of clients, you know, I go to their site, there's
no one wanted
1,500 lines of code in their page because the plugins write everything to the page.
Yeah, well, it's not very good coding either.
Yep.
You know, I used to build only, I wouldn't do WordPress because I thought it was nonsense, right? Didn't get much work, so you kind of have to do WordPress. That's what people want, right? I don't want to starve, so I'm doing WordPress. Of course, I do it, you know, I don't make pages. I do all the pages off of WordPress, call the stuff from the program, but I don't want my money pages sitting on blog. software.
I think it just goes down to the initial that not being costly and being a quick solution, and then probably people misuse it when they take that very seriously, and then but for like let's say a small company to start with, I still recommend it maybe, but then at some point maybe it's worth making an investment, because coding a blog or whatever from scratch is probably going to cost them what it's not even like worth doing at that point. But it's just depending on the use, I guess. That's my.
Yeah, well, you paid what, 40, 50 bucks for a theme, and WordPress is free, okay? Compared to if I had to write that CMS, or 5,000 bucks minimum.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I do think maybe people need to look at some of the alternatives out there. I don't know if some of you have seen Ghost, which is it's a similar blog content management system, but much, much lighter. It's designed to be very, very lightweight, very, very simple. So, I mean, there's still alternatives out there. That people just go with WordPress automatically because it's got so many plugins. But unfortunately, it has so many plugins, and many of them don't work together very nicely. They all write the same sort of stuff into the code. You get them, messing around with the same variables. WordPress haven't done a very good job of maintaining a list of variables people use, so that you can quickly go and check. Oh, right, I don't want to mess with that because
that's going to get real messy if they start using JavaScript. That'll be a freaking nightmare.
Yeah, exactly that. Well, Anton, you're joining us for the first time, so what's your week been? What have you been doing this week?
Well, I cannot pronounce myself on what this Google stuff. I'm just not good enough at it. What I've been doing usual stuff, but lately I joined the Quora. I've seen Bill's answer there, and I try to do my things, but mostly not on SEO. So my week was on Quora, or months actually.
Cool. I know you've been recording webinars and things like that as well.
Yeah, webinars is the usual stuff. We're doing 2 webinars a week, SEO webinars. So, well, obviously anybody's here welcome to have a webinar with us. I would be happy to host any of you. And, next week we'll have Ammon and Bill and Eric. And we will have Google Andrew Lipantsev, and we will you will ask any questions, and anyone who wants to watch it, welcome.
I'd have to ask, Anton, is this a particular style thing there, or are you on a staircase? Because that green line going up at an angle behind you is it looks like you're on a staircase.
No, it's not. It's not a staircase. It's a design.
So yeah, I obviously I just have a green screen behind me. You've got half and half.
Yeah, but you're probably in the office, and it's almost it's 10:30 p.m. where I am. So I'm at home, and it's kind of design wall.
Yeah. Well, this is it. I'm at home. Paul's at home. Terry's at home.
Oh, okay. Well,
Kristin's at home, but Fab there, he's in a photo booth painted green, really. He's just pretending that he never leaves the office. It's 8:15. Why are you always still at work?
Because it's easier, and also, the connection where I live is so unreliable, so that's the only way for you guys to hear me and see me properly eventually. So, also,
You can't see it from this angle, but there's a sleeping bag under that desk. He never leaves
one of those employees that sleeps here. There's a shower. There's there's everything. So
yeah.
we covered.
Yeah, when I took an in-house job for a year back in 2000 with the .com, that had every facility you could want, including shower blocks. it was one of those things. You did occasionally just work through the night when you were coding because, well, why not? You know, you could get a pizza delivered. There were showers. There was everything you could need. I think they just design it to make sure you never leave the office.
Yeah. There's even a sauna actually, because the founder of the company are from Estonia, so we have a sauna in the office. I'm not sure how it's more kind of a meeting room at this point, but yeah. It's nice to have in case of you want to spend here a weekend, like full working weekend. No kidding, but I live pretty close actually, so it's just the connection is keeping me in these days.
So what part of London is it that you're in?
Now I'm in Old Street and I live in Canada Water, so it's literally less than half an hour. Well, 4 stops overground. It's not very complicated, so I could easily go home and be there by the hangout. But yeah,
Cool.
I would be at the mercy of a 4 megabyte connection. That one.
For those not from the UK, Canada Water is sort of, well, it's sort of Docklands. It's part of the redevelopment of slightly East London that happened a few years ago. It went very upmarket, which meant they painted the old warehouses.
Yeah, it's a
turned them into flats
Porsche
and,
one nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah, charged 10 times as much for it.
Yeah, it's getting quite expensive, but it's probably Southeast London is probably the area that is more untapped in the central option that you have in terms of price as well. Like I bought my flat at the beginning of last year, but it was probably the only area I could have gone with my budget. Everywhere else in like same distance from the center, you would be looking at very expensive in terms of being ultra rich, not even affluent, something that remote.
I had to laugh the other day because I heard it on TV that Peckham is now an up-and-coming area. It's supposed to be the next sort of boom area. I was born there, and it's famous for the Only Fools and Horses series.
Well, everything is becoming like that pretty soon. If they continue at this pace, and yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, London is just this. It's kind of like a cancer in that it just grows and grows and grows. There was a time. There's these old pictures of Peckham from the 1920s, and it's a tiny little place where the farmers collected outside of London, and it's now pretty central. It's in Zone 2.
Yeah.
And there are 6 zones going out, getting consecutively bigger, and it is ludicrous how fast London grew, and how it's all consuming. Yeah. That looks like we may have Doc joining us. That's cool. So, Fab, what have you been up to this week?
A lot. I mean, like I started officially in this new company like before Christmas, but then you have Christmas break, and so I've been trying to catch up everything from like understanding what's going on in the business and everything. So it's been very, very busy, and also like moving from like agency with fairly corporate client to startup to a degree. So it's been quite challenging, but it's good fun. That's why I'm.
They're all wondering what you're up to behind you.
Oh, yeah.
People are probably leaving.
How's it been fitting in? Has it been a big change? Has there been a ton of new stuff to learn, or is that all part of the excitement? Is that's what I like about new.
I think that in general, when it comes to like coming from like, especially for SEO, probably other digital marketing channels are not as different to a degree, but the main difference is probably speed when it comes to SEO. Working as agency with like fairly corporate business, they have a certain speed that is down to the size of their organization, and like coming here is like impressive. So that's the massive change probably, and things really happen. And rather than like us sending a lot of recommendations that maybe get implemented, don't get implemented, is a different approach. But it has been fun because like working with developers and very close to developers is what I was looking for. So that's the main change probably. We were more kind of into the not into the technical stuff with agency as much as because you are into it. So no matter if you want to, you are pushed by that. So, but it is good. I'm like so far so good. It's just that how is it at the beginning? There's so much you can do, and there's so much that you could do, and it's just sizing what really matters because it's easy to go off the track with SEO. It's easy for people to there's opportunity everywhere, but what's really going to impact is a bit hard to really find it out.
Yeah. So, Doc, good to see you. Have you just been crop dusting? You're still wearing your flight jacket.
How you doing, everybody? It's cold here.
Yeah. It's been freezing here too. I thought you were, sort of Mexico, and you don't think of Mexico being cold.
That's what I thought too, but it's 39 out there on my balcony, and it's only like 41 in here at my desk. So I think I need to shift it. This is why it's famous for tequila.
Say again? This is why it's famous for tequila. Inbuilt insulation. Yeah.
I need some antifreeze. Yeah.
Good to see you, sir. Happy New Year. So, Doc, what have you been up to?
Trying to stay busy. Kind of slow right now. It's that time of year. But just finished an audit, and I've been working on a book. Decided to take my first little foray into fiction.
Cool. What
style? Something I thought was going to be a paperback length is rapidly turning into a multi-volume Britannica here. It just kind of took on a life of its own.
Wait till an editor gets hold of it. They'll trim it down like you wouldn't believe.
Well, it gives me an excuse to stay inside where it's warm, so I'm not complaining.
So what kind of fiction?
It's about a U.S.-Russian scenario, but not where they're actually partnering up against China.
Okay.
Military, mostly naval.
Cyber warfare?
Say again?
Is it to do with cyber warfare and?
No, actually,
the only thing to me that would
conventional and nuclear, threatened of nuclear, but it's going to be fun.
Cool.
I might send you a complimentary copy when I get it done, just to get your 2 cents worth on it.
Yes. Be happy to. Yeah, well, I must admit, writing is one of those things that I take my hat off to anybody who bites the bullet. I've always been fine at short stories, just committing to the idea of a book, and it's not that I don't think I've got one in me, it's just the sheer volume of work it's astounding, isn't it?
Well, it's funny, I really had envisioned this being a short story type thing. And then as it started developing, the storyline kept expanding and expanding, and it's just like I say, it's taken on a life of itself. So I'm enjoying it. I'm taking advantage of the fact that there's no damn work right now.
Yeah, always well to sort of take advantage of it. And now I'm just going to put the link in the chat for anybody that wants to join us. What's been the hardest thing about writing the book? Is it getting all the ideas straight? Is it doubting yourself and thinking, is this simple enough or too challenging? Or what's the tough part?
For me, the toughest part has been because I'm doing so much factual research on it. I'm making sure that I've got the specs right on arms and aircraft and ships and place names and the titles of different officers and whatnot. And that breaks my line of thought. I've got the storyline in my mind, and I have to go dig up some information on Prague, and by the time I come back, getting back up to speed again. That's been my big stumbling block.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Fabrizio.
What methodology do you use for the research? Is it completely random, or do you have a process to tap here and then into research, and then?
I should have, if I knew what the hell I was doing, Fabrizio, I would have researched it all on the front end and had an idea what the hell I was writing about. But the storyline has developed beyond what I had ever envisioned initially. Mm-hmm. So that idea was out the window. It's just so now it's just kind of a catch as catch can. I realize I'm touching on something that I want to be correct on, factual on, so I stop. I hit Google. I've got I hit. Of course, I'm doing a lot in Europe, so I'm doing an awful lot with their search engine. But it's not organized. Terry will tell you I'm not the most organized guy around. I'm a shotgun kind of guy. So
if Terry calls you disorganized, that's saying something.
I'm telling you, that's scary, isn't it?
Hello Zara. I'm gonna bring in a couple of comments. Dave Pipe was saying about the internet. Fab, he was saying, even I've managed to get BT to deliver 13 megs. And he says to me, I remember when Stratham started going up market, you could tell the yuppies as they pronounced it, St. Wreatham. Yes, I do remember that. That was quite a while back. But yeah, Peckham. And yeah, again on the speed, William Rock says he's got 54 megs down and 22 megs up. So there you go, Fab. You can now hate William.
I think it's just the little mile where I live. There's probably that little square that is not covered. And yeah, my neighbor has got fiber, not me. That's the.
Yeah. I must admit, fiber broadband is an essential for me now. There's no two ways about it. I couldn't be without decent speed internet. And we've got Carl joining us at last. Hello, sir.
Hi there. I don't know if you can hear me, but it's nice to head in here.
Cool. So, Zara, you jumped in just before. What have you been up to recently?
Oh, I've been writing. I have a big writing project. It's SAS descriptions, overviews. So one after another. But I jumped in because we were talking about writing novels and doing research. And I had a suggestion for that. Don't stop and do the research. Just keep writing, and then go back later at research time and fill in those missing blanks. I call them, I put in 0 words or marker or whatever you want to call them in the text, which is, just a flag that, okay, later you're going to go research. I mean, you can do that down to this is the wrong verb, but I'm sticking it in here because right now I'm writing. So, and that keeps your story flow going, and then you can go back much later when you flagged all those things and put in the details.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, because you don't want to stop the story flow as you mentioned. It's really hard to stop the story flow and go check something, and then you come back and you're like, oh, I know what I was going to say, but it's gone now. So just go with the story flow, and then go back and put in all those little details that you don't know what the size or the dimension or the name of the thing is, or even, the real verb that you want to use. It makes a huge difference in the flow of your story.
That makes sense, Sarah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I help writers all the time, so I just heard that and I was like, oh, there's an easier way to do this. Yeah, It's like research and editing are two different components of putting together a story. But the writing the story is the essential what is you part of being the author, and it comes first because all that other stuff can go in later.
There are two different parts of the brain at work, aren't there? There's the creative part that needs to run with it, to
Right.
just go, and there's the factual, basic, this is what's possible part, and the digging into the details, and the two do conflict. Now, when you already know the details, your creativity can just run on the tracks, no problem at all. You know, it fuels the creativity by giving it boundaries.
Yeah.
But you can't jump back and forth between the two things.
No, you can't. And you know, I spent years working with kids writing poetry. And I would come in and we'd talk about writing, and I'd say, forget punctuation, forget spelling, forget grammar, and the teachers are all going, we're learning semicolons this week, and I'm like, that's fine, we're going to do that later, that's called editing, but when the juice is going, you don't want to lose it by stopping to find the right word or by not knowing a particular detail. So I just, get your own personal flag, whatever it is, and you can mark on grammar or, but you don't want to spend time doing that while you're writing. You just want to I just put in a row of X's and then keep going. So I can go back and check and search all the X's for what I need to fix. But don't stop the flow, because that's your writing power.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Wow, and congratulations, because the novel is a big deal. I'm writing a historical novel, and it's a major project.
Yeah, now that would have even more.
Was it a historical novel when you started, or has it just taken that long?
No, it was historical when I wrote it. It's about Ravenna in 514 CEAD, whatever you want to call it. And, it's an interesting research challenge because Justinian did everything that he possibly could to erase all trace of the Ostrogoths being in Italy. So a lot of it is very interpretive or culturally interpretive because there isn't any hard recordings. He did, down to eliminating mosaics in churches and replacing what was there. So it's a difficult period to research, but the story is definitely there. There's two legal systems, and Rome is actually in Constantinople, and the Romans are all living in a bubble in Italy, thinking they're still Rome is it, and it's a very interesting time.
It's one of those things. You're describing for me the ultimate evil. For me, censorship and historical revisionism has always been the worst evil there is. There is a reason that Satan is called the father of lies.
Yes.
Lying and revisionism is the basic of all evil because it's what enables you to justify anything else.
Yes, I'm currently reading a novel by James Lee Burke, Rain Dogs, and one of the quotes he has in there is the theological definition of lies, which is keeping information from someone that they should know. And that is exactly what that is, that evil of, taking away the information.
But I think most evil has its heart in people lying to themselves. I think self-deception is the greatest of all lies, and the thing that enables pretty much every other kind of evil to happen, because nobody ever sees themselves as evil. Nobody sane sees themselves as evil, but they lie to themselves, and that's how they get to do some terrible things.
Yes, yes, it's true. But I think we all need a little rotating bubble behind us. That would help.
Definitely, definitely. Carl, good to have you join us. What's your week been like?
My week, boring as usual. Just been taking care of little things that bug me about like my site and a few of the other ones. You know, just trying to neaten things up for Google and whatnot. Mostly what I do is like programming stuff, but so here I am trying to learn more SEO. That's why I'm here. I'm not a master of SEO, but I'm getting there. I've got
I think
probably.
It's one of those things in SEO. If somebody tells you they're a master of it, they're not, because it's always changing.
Exactly.
That's all students. Bill and I are keen, dedicated, long-term students of SEO.
No doubt. Yeah, I mean, I do web design really well, so there's a small portion already taken care of, I guess, you know. But anyways, so I don't know what to ask you guys. Maybe I should come up with some questions or something here, but it's an honor to be on your show. I love the show. Happy to be here.
Good to have you here. Which languages do you tend to work in when programming?
PHP is my main language right now, and then I've been learning a lot more of JavaScript. That's a animal there to wrangle with. It's not very easy, in my opinion. And then you know, of course, HTML and CSS and all that good stuff.
I must admit, I liked JavaScript. It's a tricky beast at times, but then again, every language can be. But its potential is huge, and I think what we're seeing at the moment with stacks shows more of the potential of JavaScript than we've ever seen before. And I think it is growing into an even more powerful language going forward.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of sites that I've seen, you know, I don't think they would even work without JavaScript these days. It seems to be more of a mainstay of languages. You don't have to worry about it that much anymore, I think. I don't know.
There's still
There's
still some of the mobile technology that's limited with its JavaScript. So you still have to be a little bit careful.
I personally wouldn't build a site, you know, that requires JavaScript, but I've seen them out there. You know, Google can read it all, so, or most of it, anyways.
So. It's interesting. Have you seen Google's AMP, Accelerated Mobile Pages, and its limitations? It gives you a JavaScript library to work with, but you can't use any other.
Yep, exactly. I set up my pages for my blog there. I have just those pages on AMP right now. I finally got the analytics working and all that good stuff. So it's interesting. It's not very easy to work with. You know, you could do like custom pages, but if you're trying to load it out of the database, you have a lot of you know, making it work stuff going on, kind of work.
Database work with JavaScript is nonsense. My personal opinion. I work on fixing sites that did that. Big problems. Doesn't work.
It used to be the language I struggled the most with. You know, I'd have programmed something that was great, and then I've got a bug, and of course I've left off a semicolon somewhere in 5,000 lines of code. There's one semicolon missing, and JavaScript was, you know, one of those languages that it always seemed to be that one more than any other that I would leave off a semicolon. Jason, good to have you join us this week. I see you're muted at the moment, but how's your week been? What have you been up to?
Oh, great week. Staying busy. You know, the most exciting thing, I'm in Ukraine, and I discovered the dental system over here. Now, the price to go in and have your teeth done in Ukraine is unbelievable. For about $100, I got cleanings and scrapings and plackings, and I'm all excited because, and today I got whitening, and I'm not kidding you, for like $150. This stuff would have cost me $1,000. So that's my big excitement for the week is I got my dental that I've been putting off for 30 years. I finally got it done.
Yeah, you could have come to the UK and got it for free.
for free. And you can get it free in the UK.
Yeah, a lot of dental stuff is free still here. Yeah.
Oh, not in the U.S., buddy. In fact, it got me to thinking that I have a little place that I wanted to put a little apartment on the piece of property I have here, and I thought, well, what would I do? I could, rent this out, but then, do some sort of like a dental tourism. I thought that would be kind of an interesting, because you could.
Stay for a week. Have your teeth sorted. You want to find a couple of other, cosmetic surgeon. And
for the price of a root canal, you could fly round trip from the States and stay here for a week and get your teeth done. And I was doing some look online at dental tourism, and it would blow your mind how big of a business it actually is. I had no idea until I kind of got this. I was like, holy cow, I'm not the first person that thought of this.
The only thing that's big is, of course, any kind of plastic surgery, hair replacement, those kind of things are massive too. I was working with a hair transplant clinic in the UK, and their biggest rival is, I think, in Belarus, with the same price to go, all your flights, accommodation and everything for the same price as just day surgery in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that happens when doctors don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loans to pay when they finish school. That's why it costs that much. That's all of it. No other reason.
Yeah, I believe it.
It's expectations too, isn't it? I think in a lot of countries, they don't, a doctor expects to be secure professionally, but he doesn't expect to be rich. Whereas in America, still, isn't there this idea that as a doctor you're a failure unless you're making ridiculous amounts of money?
Yeah,
I'm not sure how doctors think.
What they pay in school, Ammon. Like, how would you like to spend or be in debt for the first 20 years in your job to pay for going to school? So the only way that works is for, doctors to make that much money. That's why, America can't have the kind of systems that we have in Canada, the United Kingdom, because doctors don't expect to be millionaires.
I think it's also down to the kind of wages in the country and so on, because, for example, studying in Italy is fairly almost like free or very cheap, and still we got like that dental tourism from Croatia and other countries. So, and like my father friend is a dentist, and we live in like 4 hours from the border, and there are Croatian companies doing PPC in our town. That means they can still bring someone going there to do it, and it's just because down there the salary is on average, and like the cost of the life and everything is cheaper, and they can afford to do so.
Hey, this year it's like that in Canada, 30 cents on the dollar today.
Yeah, well, Gina was saying she paid $300 for cleaning X-rays. And I must admit, we here in the UK see so many examples of people needing surgery in the US and getting a $75,000 bill, and what, that just seems insane to us.
That's a minor surgery in the US, Evan. A friend of mine just had a gallbladder removed. It was $92,000, and that's like an appendectomy. It's a very, very simple 40-minute in and out. I got a friend on the other side of the border. I'm in Mexico, and they're right across the border in San Diego. They come over here to get their prescription filled. It's $170 for a 15-day dosage over there. It's $11 here. Same medication, same company. From 11 up to 170. Come on.
Yeah. Have you thought of starting a business just throwing medicine over the fences?
They're more sophisticated than that.
I'm too old to be digging tunnels,
Actually, in Ukraine, it's $20. It's not $100. It's 20. I just checked with my wife. She's a doctor. So if they charge you $100, well, because you're American, I guess.
$20 for what in Ukraine?
For cleaning teeth in the whitening.
Well, if you go to a state establishment, then yes.
No. Yeah, I live in Kiev here, so.
Okay. Oh, you're in Kiev. I'm in Uzhgorod.
Well, I'm in Kiev. Uzhgorod should be. Well, Uzhgorod is closer to Polish border, maybe because of that.
Yeah. Well, my wife went to the state establishment, so of course it was much dear. It was like 180 hryvnia.
No, it's 500 hryvnias here, and it's $20.
Yeah.
So you've been ripped off, but never mind. Still cheap.
Yeah. Well, it's good to meet you, Anton. I'll have to circle around on you.
Yeah, it's one of these things, isn't it? That as the internet is making the world smaller, it's making all of this so much more visible. You know, the idea of tourism business years ago for anything except tourism itself was just, you know, it didn't happen a lot, or it was only for very specialist things. You know, if you were after something that pretty much was illegal in your country, you might go across the borders.
No, but United Kingdom was always a subject to medical tourism because of NHS, isn't it? A lot of people from Africa, everywhere they came, and it was for free, and it's good quality. Even you complain all the time. I mean, you Brits.
I think one of the reasons that, you know, English people have this attitude towards some other countries is, you know, we used to get this thing of critically ill people getting into the country before they collapse so that they'll get, you know, emergency treatment here for free. So, you know, we tend to think of all these other countries as very strange, weak people who are very ill. You know, they get off the plane and collapse. You know, what's going on? Kristin, glad you are finally here with us. How are you doing?
I don't know. Let's see. Can you hear me? My alien squirrel?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Cool. Then I'm great. It's always good to have an emergency browser.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm doing good.
How's your week?
How's everyone here? I've missed quite a bit of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, some of them missed quite a bit of it as well. You know, Jason snuck in at the last minute.
And we've got Carl. I've never seen Carl on camera before.
Yeah, I begged him earlier in the week and basically
Good begging.
guilted him into it.
You always have good begging skills.
So, Jason, how big of a change is AMP for your business?
Oh, how big of a change is what for my business?
AMP.
Accelerated mobile. AMP, accelerated mobile pages.
Oh, haven't even gotten involved with it so much yet. I'm not real sure. I made a big shift last year. I made it a point to say that I'm no longer the developer in my company, and it's my job to not have to do that. But my job is to make sure I hire the guys to do that and make myself step away. Yeah. 2014, I was really trying to wear too many hats. And 2015 was my year to say, you know what, I need to learn to let myself get kicked out of the kitchen. So I have somebody, you know, in this role, and somebody in this role, and I hire them. I say, okay, they're good, and you go through this problem of hanging on too tightly and micromanaging, and you just gotta learn to say stop. So, Ammon, you asked me a question like that. There's a part of me that goes, why don't I know this? I need to know this. I need to know the most current trends and this and that. And how come I don't know why I can't circle Anton right now on Google? I just clicked over and tried this, and I can't. And I'm like, I should know this stuff, but that's not my job anymore. I don't need to know. I just need to hire the right people that know how to do that stuff so I can sit back and have a hangout with Ammon.
Well, and I think that Eli has written about AMP on Track Tips. On the Google Plus page.
He has, and curiously enough, Eli is he's the one that curates some of the best content for On Track Tips. So speaking of which, that's my company. And I haven't been over there and read any of the articles. I just know that he does such a great job that I can trust him to do his job, and I just don't even. I'm so out of the loop. It's funny though, because I know that if I want to get caught up on what's happening in social media, I can go and read my own business page that I didn't even say, and know that it's taken care of. That's fun. And you too, Kristin, have been doing a great job.
It is hard to retrain yourself, though. When you're used to doing it yourself and not turn into that micromanager that everybody hates. It's difficult.
It's hard not to want to be able to do it all. You wanna have all the. Who was it? I'm sure there's probably a ton of famous people have said it. It sounds like such a pretty popular quote, but I think it was Ken Manasseh. Maybe you guys have seen him floating around here at Google Plus, but he was the one that always says, "Don't ask how, ask who," and took me a long time to finally figure that one out. But so anyway, not to digress, Ammon.
Yeah, we've got a little geek joke there for Carl being thrown in by Amy. Gina's saying hi to everyone as well. Just letting people know we are not forgetting. There's Kim in the audience. Kim, you want to have a little talk with Anton after this show, so circle Anton, and he'd love to talk to you about maybe doing a webinar. So, I must admit, the thing that you brought up, Jason, about not micromanaging, the flip side to that, the hard balancing part is, if you've got lieutenants you can trust implicitly to manage a whole section, it's great. But if you're still having to hire the developers, there's still that part where you've got to know their job as well, if not better than them, to hire the right people in the first place, isn't there? And that's where it gets tricky. You mustn't do the job for them, but you must still know their job as well as they do in order to make the right hiring choices in the first place.
Well, I don't think you have to know it as well as them.
No. The basics, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I have to. What I'm looking for is the results, right? Somebody hires my company to build this application or that application. My customer doesn't care what the code looks like. My customer cares what the front end looks like. They care what their customers, when they come to the website, is it working? And so, yes, I have to know enough about the back end, but like this article I just posted from David Kutcher put up on Confluent Forums, pretty big evolution in JavaScript coming out right now. Seems to be a pretty bold. I've heard in the developer communities they've been debating this back and forth. Is this really such a hot topic? Is that really such a big deal? Calypso and the REST API. I mean, now if you asked me to define the REST API, I don't know. I couldn't possibly begin to tell you, but I know that enough to say, okay, do you guys? I made my developer. I asked the developer team, you go read this, and I want you guys to discuss it amongst yourself. Tell me what you think. And if they can discuss this intelligibly amongst themselves, I know as the person who hired them that I've hired the right people, because they can at least have that conversation. But it doesn't mean I have to get in there and say, no, you're right, or no, you're wrong about that.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Literally all I'm saying is the right hiring decisions in the first place. It's a great chef employs great chefs. But, they need to know food themselves. They need to know the techniques themselves to appreciate what the chef is doing. And I think there's a lot of ways in which code is very similar. Terry, I'm talking both of your passions here. So I'm presuming that this kind of hits home.
When I was a chef, I didn't even ask questions. Handed him a knife and said, there's a bunch of vegetables over there, cut them up. I'd know if the guy was going to be on my team or not then, and make me something out of it.
Well, like if he wasn't bleeding when he got done, he was hired?
Well, no, I was looking for speed. I could tell when a guy picks up a knife if he knows what he's doing or not.
Yeah.
Just by the way he holds it in his hand, right? Because, well, I was taught a certain way to do it. And I learned afterwards that's because you have more control of the knife. So just things like that. You know, anybody can answer questions. You know, I want to see the guy actually do the work, because then, you know, you have clear. And just the organization too, right? How they went about doing things. I learned more that way than I ever did asking them questions.
Haha, that's my first cooking job. That I had this line of sacks of lemons, and they said, "Zest these."
Yep.
And you know, zest. Mounds of lemon zest.
Yeah, well, the zest test obviously works.
It's the zest test, exactly.
It's one of those things, similar to what Terry's saying there. I mean, there are a lot of developers who can talk a good game, but I will go and look at the code, because a great developer, their code is neat.
Mm-hmm.
A great developer just can't code any other way. The slapdash looking code is from the slapdash thinkers, the ones who are having to work hard at it. The people who are really good at what they're doing, it just naturally comes out clean and beautiful, because they've done it so many times before. And very similar to exactly what we're talking about with, you know, good knife skills for the chef. You know, they can slice and dice with no effort at all, because they've done it so often, and it comes out neat, and the pieces come out even. I think there is an element to that.
The paint crew that shows up to your house in all white, you know, the white schmuck, you know, and leaves with a white schmuck.
Yeah.
There's the real test.
Whoa, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are coming towards the top of the hour, so we're going to start doing our traditional wind down. So I'm going to ask people what they've got coming up in the week ahead, what they're looking forward to. Bill, let's kick off with you first.
Okay, sounds good. Working on some site migrations and giving sites on staging servers, telling people whether or not they should move forward or take a couple steps back. And I just crawled one, and there seems to be only 18 URLs that are available from the main page of the server, which means I've got to dig deeper and see what they sort of expect is going on.
Yeah. I must admit, a site migration is always a big deal. You know, let's face it, it's cold weather. Everyone's thinking of migrating, but site migration is not a thing to take lightly. It is a big job. The older the site and the bigger the site, the more of a job it is. But the other thing that is almost the same is, you know, a big update to a site of any sort. I mean, I see people who decide to revamp their code, you know, new design. And often a new design is as big a job as a site migration. You know, it's not just that a couple of CSS files change. Often the navigation gets messed around with, the order of the code gets messed about with, and it's like, you know, giving Google a whole new site to work with the issues. Other things that people should be aware of if they're, you know, considering this themselves, that are things that they should definitely do before they even start that migration?
It's always helpful to do a careful content inventory and make a list of all the assets that you have that you want to keep and carry over to your new site, and you might want to update or replace some things at that point too.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, it's traditional for people to sort of put a no-indexed or blocked shadow copy of the site, so they can test out the redesign without affecting the real site. You know, have both copies around. Is that still good practice?
To put something in a robot subtext file says don't index this?
Well, whatever method you use to get it no indexed, but certainly have a complete copy of the new one don't just switch over. Test the new one extensively on a shadow copy first, and even think of, maybe then redirecting some of the users before redirecting the search engines and checking it. Basically, alpha and beta testing the new design before going fully live with it. I find conditional redirects to test a duplicate copy can be quite useful.
Now, are you migrating just? Are you merging from like one URL to another, or you're going from one platform to another, or you're consolidating?
All I got was an email that says we're moving our site.
Oh.
Look into it.
Oh man.
No discussion. So I'm gonna end up with a lot of questions, which is I want to get the answers to before we do too much moving.
I would answer Ammon your question had you asked me. Some things that we do for my migration that I see a lot of people don't do is, of course, you know this. I even called you and asked you for some advice one time, but that 301 mapping that you need to absolutely do, because your URL structure is almost guaranteed to change. And what do you preserve? What do you not preserve? Do you preserve down to the image level? Is it really what kind of? And that's where I mean, of course, we know that we want to make sure to preserve in 301 all of our top level pages, our main posts, etc. So forth.
I didn't answer that because it's a given. It's obvious. We want site indexed. We don't want to lose pages. They're important pages. We want to make sure that we do a careful inventory before we do migration to make sure we know which pages are pages that we want to make sure make a transition over to new versions.
Let me ask you, Bill. How far down do you do that for images too? Like, do you map out 301 map images, or do you just let that SEO disappear?
No, we don't want to go from a fully working site to one that has all the images missing.
No, I mean, you keep the images, but would you bother to 301 map the image URLs? You would never mess with them.
If they're changing, then they need 301, but if they're not changing, then no.
But is it worth it? Is it worth it to do that for your images?
No. If it was an artist site, maybe, but I think once in a million.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, if you're a photography site, I agree with Doc, but any other thing,
no.
Yeah, only if the images are the primary content.
Yeah.
Very little value in images. I mean, any traffic it brings is usually people stealing your images. So you really even want them finding them.
Ah, that's a great point. I like that point.
So, who was it? Terry, what you got coming up in the week ahead?
Well, I just happen to be doing a migration, so I'll share a few things. First thing I do is the original site. I spider it with Screaming Frog, and then the URLs that I know I have changed the URL structure. I take the original and run that as a list through Screaming Frog to make sure that all the 301s work. Also, finish it off with Screaming Frog, and it tells me if there's any broken links. Short meta description, short meta type, stuff that needs to be improved is there. Now, when I'm developing a site, I used to throw in the SEO, but I don't make enough to do that anymore, so I just make the meta description fit the page. I don't actually optimize often. Got paid for that now.
Yeah. Anton, you go in next. So, what are you up to this week?
Yeah, well, still a webinar this week to do, and next week another 2 webinars, including one with you and Bill and the Google. Yeah.
Yes, us and the Google. We are going for part 2 of our.
You're going to Google again.
Yes. I hope Andrew is ready.
Do you have a link for that you could put in so we can all follow you?
Sure.
I'll put that in the comments for people so they can't miss it. But, yeah, we'll look forward to that. We had fun last time, didn't we, Bill?
Yes, we did. Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, John Henshaw couldn't make this one, but Eric Engie is joining us instead, so that's going to be fun. Fab, what are you up to this week?
Just finishing my New Year plan because the New Year is starting and we need to define what to do, and it's like last few days to decide at least the most urgent stuff, and then in like 6 months' time things will be completely different, and then will be a different story. But just to put things on paper on what really happens is the plan.
Well, I'm just putting the Google Q&A link in the main event.
On the migration front, one thing that we often realize is that especially for massive site, even though it's a redesign, that is going to change the structure of the content, because the redesign is going to change the way the content, like the experience is. And one of the, especially if the site is very large, is often that is not just the 301 mapping, but is also mapping content from area to area, because most of the time when you redesign, well, recently we always ended up with less content than what we had before, so a lot of that need to feed into somewhere else, or need to at least still be there, because we could still rank for that, but we don't really want to lose it. So that's one thing that is quite painful actually, but especially for massive site with a lot of content, it was quite helpful.
When the migration is simply moving from one host to another, changing IP address, changing servers, that's always the least problematic for me, because you're changing one thing, the IP address. And as an SEO who has done testing for 20 years, the fewer things you change at once, the better. It's that simple. Because when you are changing the code, changing the design, changing the URL structure, and changing the IP address all at once, something goes wrong, any one of those could be the problem.
Well, and even if something goes right, Ammon, if suddenly the rankings go sky high, it's still a crapshoot. Which fixed it? Which did it? You want to do one thing at a time when you can, or at least monitor closely if you have to do two things at once. And that's what makes,
I think a lot of times when somebody needs to move host, or they decide to, change something, that they decide to change everything. Oh, let's get it all done at once. Clean broom kind of thing, new broom approach. But actually, that doesn't make a lot of sense when it comes to SEO and technical side of the challenges of the web. And really try and stagger the changes. You're going to be moving host, maybe you move host first. Then you can stagger the other changes one at a time to minimize the number of things that can be identified as having caused either a problem or, sometimes even a boom. So, Doc, what are you up to in the coming week? More writing?
Well, I'll be, in my spare time I'm working on the book, but I've got a couple of bids out that look hopeful, at least, so maybe I'll get back into the grind. I just finished an audit, so that kind of left me. The only work I have going on right now is I've got people handling that. That's through the copywriting company. But SEO right now is for me, has been dead. So I'm working on a book. It'll keep me out of trouble. If I can stay busy enough, it'll keep my wife from putting me to work.
Do you ever get tempted to do, what SEOs of yore always used to do, which is client work goes a little bit quiet, or you get fed up a bit, do the affiliate stuff for a while?
Yeah.
Be your own client, make your own sites that use what you do. They used to call it the crack cocaine of internet marketers, affiliate stuff. Because once you start,
you can't take that monkey off your back.
kind of, yeah. Because why would you go back to having clients when you can make much more money doing the affiliate stuff? I think these days it's a lot harder work than it used to be.
Yeah.
It used to be that so many companies didn't know anything about the web, didn't know anything about SEO. That you got opponents with both hands tied behind their backs.
I've been toying with the idea of getting into some affiliate stuff for probably 3-4 years now. Ever since I started following Sugar Ray, and I keep getting closer and closer to it, but I just can't quite get myself to take that step. Like PPC, I detest PPC and refuse to get into it because I just don't like it, and I'm afraid I won't like affiliate.
Find something that ought to be online and isn't. Find a product you really believe in bringing to the internet that isn't out there and you couldn't talk them into it, and that will be the thing that helps you make that step and feel really good about it. But my advice, Doc, do it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of affiliate.
Me neither, as a rule. I like the client stuff, but
Well, to me, it's like giving all the customers to them. Like, that's what I don't like about affiliate programs, is you're basically building someone else's customer list, right? I like to build my own customer list. So I was in reseller programs, but there aren't too many of those that are, really good these days.
You can always take a leaf out of what some people are doing with Amazon, where they are sourcing products to be made for them in China, and they're basically sourcing the whole deal. Amazon is the store. China is producing it for them, unique products for them. It's amazing what you can get built these days. So again, you can tie that to the affiliate stuff, and basically be your own company, get your own stuff made. It's a lot easier today than it ever used to be. It's an interesting world out there.
I'm thinking about maybe doing something with OpenCart because I kind of lost touch with it, and now you can add themes and stuff to it. So probably mess around with that, sell some stuff. Like, I know lots of people with stores that would take my orders. I know that. So.
Yeah, cool. Carl, what have you got coming up in the week ahead, sir?
Let's see. There's maybe a possible migration from a Yahoo Sites deal. I mean, I don't really know that much about what they have on the back end, but they're definitely not mobile friendly, and it's like way out of date. So I don't know. I'm not sure what I want to do with them yet, but that, and I also want to look into like push notifications and stuff like that. But it's probably, you have to have HTTPS and all that good stuff to make it work. So yeah. I have like a shared SSL connection with my server that I have in HostGator. So
yeah, cool. Jason, what's the week ahead look like for you?
Well, hopefully, finally getting a reboot on our website. Been dinking around on this thing for about a year now, and I should have had it launched a long time ago. It's one of those, things that is always on the back burner. But I think I'm too close to it. That's the problem. I can build sites for everybody else, but as soon as you got to build one for yourself, then all of a sudden you just like you freeze, you lock up. It's too. So I finally decided to actually outsource the building of my own site to another company because I was too close to it. I had to back away. I hired a brand specialist, Dan Crass from Brand Shepherd. He's phenomenal. I've worked with him on a number of different projects, and I said, you know what? Go ahead and take control, take the reins.
I have him on Snapchat.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. We're learning it together.
So yeah, it's one of those things. I think you can talk to any web design company in the world and ask them, how's your site redesign coming, without knowing whether they've got one, and 90% of them will go, oh, don't even ask, because it's exactly that thing. We are always learning new things, we're always seeing new possibilities, so we're always because we're aware of the cutting edge, we're always seeing our site as not being there. I think that is a thing for all of us. We are very aware of what more we could and therefore maybe should be doing. Am I showcasing everything I can do here? It's universal, so don't sweat it too much. Outsourcing it is not uncommon. It really isn't. But yeah, it's one of those things. Shoemakers, children, and all that.
Yeah. I read an article from a friend of mine that actually somebody I'm working with, but that said that's the whole article was the cobbler's kid has no shoes is no excuse. The cobbler's kid has to have the best shoes, period. And now it's a great article, and of course it makes some good assertions and all, but the reality is yes, we need to hold my business has been largely referral. I don't even think I could take on more business if the site was beautiful and SEO perfect and we started to get organic. I don't think I could take it on at this point. There's too many other things in the business that I need to fix. Where that's why social media and website have not been things that have been top of mind for us. But you still need that, even if it is just a business card, even if it is just a brochure. To say, here we are.
Exactly.
Who's John? Who's the John guy that just snuck in?
Zara, what have you got coming up this week?
Oh, I have an article for a client. We do a monthly article for an online magazine, and then the continuation of the product overviews for the SaaS applications. But also, what I'm very excited about is we're calling it What's Afoot at this point in time, working on a project with Jason Darrell on copywriting and search engine optimization, and with all the changes going on. So he has some medical things coming up, but this week getting an outline together of what we're doing. So I'm very excited about the new collaboration.
John, obviously you've snuck in at the last minute just to boast about whatever it is you're up to this week. How are you, John? And what are you up to this week?
I don't know. I was up to completely different things until maybe yesterday morning when I opened my Twitter feed and it kind of all blew up. But such is life. But yeah. I don't know, nothing really special. Lots of docs and helping out with some beta testing. So,
cool.
Fun week.
Cool. I think in the green room, Bill's going to talk to you about in-depth articles because we're certainly all interested in that topic at the moment. And I think you might have some good insights on that. But for this week, Kristin, what are you up to this week?
I'm enjoying meeting a whole bunch of different developers on Blab and getting into conversations, specifically members of the Blab team and also different startup people. I've got to meet Saul Fleischman, and I'm now doing just a little bit of moderating over his GBoss community because I looked at it and I was like, oh my goodness, you need help here, and I'm going to get rid of this mountain of blue heads here, and so I'm helping him there. But yeah, just like finding connections, putting people together, what I love doing. So I'm just doing more of that. And I also got into Free Code Camp. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but it's another one of these learning to code sites. But they have a really cool model where they take you through the different steps, and then you contribute to a nonprofit, and you learn how to build a nonprofit site, and then by the end of that time you should be hireable. So it's a pretty neat model.
It's very cool. It's something I don't know if John will remember, but Bill certainly will. I used to say back in the day at CreatorSite when people were saying, I'm just getting started, how do I get my first client? And I used to say, network and find a non-profit, find a charity that you can do some work for. And cut your teeth there, because I do think it is incredibly valuable to turn your learning into something that improves the community around you. I think that translates to almost anything. If you're learning to cook, help out at a soup kitchen. If you're learning any kind of skill, find somewhere you can put those lessons into immediate good use for others, and it will make those lessons easier and better, and add to your resume.
Well
That's
said.
it for this week. We'll carry on chatting in the green room as ever, but for now, take care. See you next week.